Hey everyone, this is Giacomo Vaccari with a quick and dirty tutorial on how to create an auto-aim system in Unreal. I'm making this with the first person template. Super simple stuff, but I couldn't find any info out there on how to do it, so I figured I'd show you guys how to do it if someone is searching out there. So very simple. We have here the first person character, usually like the one that comes with the first person template. And I created an enemy here, nothing much to it. It's a character, no code in it at all. Literally the only thing is, instead of like using the skeletal mesh, I added a cube for you guys to see. As you can see, it's right at the center, so I didn't do anything special to this little guy here. You can see that he's well, this cube is fitting the mesh, the capsule component. So basically it will be like a normal enemy that will move around and stuff. Now, on the level editor, I made him move. Nothing very interesting, but just so you see that he's moving, so we can follow him around whenever we are actually doing what we're gonna do in a few seconds. So, what is the purpose of auto-aim? It can be many things, but usually it's made for controller or to help players follow an enemy, for whatever reason. So usually you would have to be very precise to hit this, but with the auto aim we're gonna help you stay on track with the enemy. So let's look at the code inside the first person character. Very simple, extremely simple in fact. I didn't finish this yet, but I'll show you guys as we go along. So this for now, this is some stuff that I was testing. So, unfortunately, we have to use the event tick for this. Usually I don't like using the tick unless I really need to. Well, this is the stuff that comes with it, so like movement and like stick input, mouse input. I haven't changed any of that, or the spawn projectile, none of that has been changed from the template, so we can forget about it. Now, the auto-aim system, how is it gonna work? Basically, every tick, we're gonna check if there's something that we're aiming at. So basically, like this, are we aiming at it? Fine, then we don't do anything. But what if we're just a little bit outside, and you can actually see the auto-aim there? Then we want to move you a little bit so you're actually aiming at it, or help you be close to it at least. Right, let's see what would happen if we don't actually do this auto-aim. I'm gonna aim at it, and I'm gonna leave the mouse, and so with the auto-aim, we can help in situations where, like, for example, you're using a controller, or like there's a lower input sensitivity, or many other things to help you hit the enemy. You only have to move the mouse a tiny little bit to stay. It's moving, and it's moved a little bit, and I'm back on him, right? So that's an example of auto-aim usage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 2 capsule traces right in front of our character. Right now, I'll show this in a second. Let's forget about this for now. Let's start with the most simple stuff. So the first thing we're gonna do is to trace right in front of us, which is gonna tell us if we're pointing at the enemy or not. And how we're gonna do that is with a capsule trace. So this is one small thing. Oh, I'm not showing my cursor. Let me change that for you. There we are. So we're gonna look at creating a capsule trace for objects, which are gonna be pawns or characters, and this, well, basically a pawn, because an enemy is a pawn 99% of the time. And this is a tiny little detail. Most people would do a trace from the top of from the shooting point of the gun, and that's incorrect. That would show you that wouldn't hit the center of the screen. So that's like a very usual newbie mistake. By the way, in this template, and also because of how my screen is looking, the crosshair is not exactly at the center of the screen, so It's 10 pixels down in the y-axis for whatever reason. Anyway, so forgetting about that because we don't care. We're gonna get the camera, the first-person camera that I probably set up. No, of course I didn't have to set it up because we are the character, so we just grab it from here. First-person camera, and from there we're gonna get its world location, which that's gonna be the start of the trace. We're gonna get the forward vector, so there's a unit of 1 showing us basically it's gonna be like X or whatever, but as we rotate it's gonna change the forward vector, and we're gonna multiply for how long we want the trace to be. So like in this case 1500, but it could be more or less depending. Like a shotgun would probably have less, and like a sniper rifle would probably have like 4 9s in there or something. Then you sum up those two, and then that gives you the end of the trace, right? So this is pretty simple stuff, but if you've never seen it before, let me zoom in there so you get an idea of how that works. Now, because it's a capsule, it has a radius and a half height. In this case, we're calling this function with a radius of 10, and in fact it should probably be less, probably 5, something like that. It's very, very small. You could literally make it with a line trace, but we'll see later why not. It's basically we don't want to be that close. We don't want to point for the player, right? We want to kind of help them, but not too much. And that's going to be both radius and half height. It's going to be like a circular capsule. I guess you could do, I wonder if there's like a sphere trace. Actually there is. You could totally just do this. It's literally the same thing. Because we're using the same radius and half height. I'm just used to using the capsule for other things, so whatever. And we will need to know if we are hitting something. So basically this is gonna show like a capsule trace right in front of us. So you can see it there. That's the trace we're making, right? So and that's gonna return if it's hit something and what it's hit. So like this, basically it's gonna give you a lot of information. So like, have I hit something? Yes. When did I hit it? At what distance? Where was the trace? Where did I hit it? What's the normal? Who is the actor? So for example, in other situations you could get information from the actor and do whatever, like for example a destroy, right? And destroy it. Actually, if you want to do that, just so you guys see what's happening. As soon as I boom, gone, right? It's gonna give me a warning because I tried to destroy it more than one time, and you should do like an is valid here and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter because we're not actually doing that. But what's important is that in the function, once you create it, you're gonna need to have an input, which is the radius, and two outputs, which is have I hit something, yes or no, a boolean, or out hit, or whatever you wanna call it, which is a hit result. We need this. So we have this one now, and we don't need the information for the hit now, but we need to know if we hit something. Why? Because if we hit something, we are actually we have the crosshair over the enemy. Probably not in this case because that crosshair is wrong, but whatever. See? So we are actually looking at the enemy. Let's give it time to go away. There we go. Nothing. We're looking at the enemy. Okay? So when we're looking at the enemy, we don't actually want to do autoaim. I mean, the radius is very small, so even if we're looking at him, it's, you know, like, it's very small. So we're literally gonna use the same function again. This is why you use functions, to save yourself work, right? So we can use exactly the same function again, but this time we're gonna use a bigger radius. What this capsule trace is literally the same thing, of course, it's the same function. What this trace is gonna do, whoops, I don't know where they did that. Okay, where are we? What this is gonna do is have a bigger radius around it, around the original capsule, and it's gonna see. So basically, it's gonna do the same. It's gonna be like, okay, am I hitting upon? So basically, if this one, if the center of a reticle is not hitting the enemy, but the 80 units radius around it is, that means that we're basically looking kind of close to it, but we're not exactly on it. right? So so yeah, let's see. Close to, right? So if we are hitting on the enemy, and remember this comes from the previous like this function, like this boolean comes from the function, just the same as way as before. So we're close to the enemy, see, and you can see it's green because we're close to the enemy. We're far away, nothing, but we're in the center. We also don't get the print. If we're actually working and getting it right, we're actually also not doing it because we don't need the autoaim. Here we would need the autoaim, and here we don't, and here we would, and so on, right? So if it's not true that we have it in the center, but it is true that it's close to the center, we're going to rotate our player towards it. Now we need the information from the hit here, so you're going to create a function which takes a hit. If you don't know how to do that, it's very easy. In the inputs, we're going to do like input learning, and here you can say what type of variable that is, right? So like there's one thing that's called hit result, right? So it's a structure. It's literally the same thing, okay? That's what I did before. That's what you need there. So you're gonna get the hit from the big capsule. You're gonna break it because we're gonna need several things here. Oh, that's it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna explain first what we need to do and then how we're gonna do it. So a lot of people, what you would do, and I did it the first few times before, would be something like this. Set actor rotation for our player and then rotate it along the yaw axis, right, the Z. So it would rotate like this, right? But that's not the right way of doing it, because you would rotate the actor but not the actual controller that's being talked to by the mouse or whatever. So that would give you very weird things. It's happened before. So what you need to do is get the controller and set a control rotation, right? So very simple. Get controller from the pawn, obviously, and set rotation. Set control rotation, right? Because it's the controller that needs to rotate, and then tell the pawn to rotate, not rotating the actor, because then the controller and the actor would not be in sync. So how we're gonna decide that we rotate him? So basically what you want to do is decide, see where that actor is, where the enemy is, where you are, and figure out a vector that tells you the direction, right? So how you do that is like basically you get the you can do many things, but how I did it is like where is the enemy, get the actor location. Don't think about this right now, don't worry about it. Get its location and get where the impact point, where the capsule hit it, and that's going to give us a direction, right? So for example, here it would tell us go to the left, and here it would tell us go to the right, and here it would tell us go down, and so on and so forth, right? So there's going to be a vector that tells us that. We need to normalize it, so give it a maximum value of 1 in between all the axes. I don't know how you pronounce that, axes. Then we get the rotation, in this case from the X vector. That's kind of out of the scope of this, but like just it works, just trust me. Right? So then we're gonna get, so that's the rotation that we want to go to, right? Like the direction, we want to move our character towards that direction, right? So that's the vector we're gonna move to, that rotation. And we're going to move from the direction, the rotation that the controller has, so get the controller rotation. That's going to be our current rotation, and it's going to rotate towards the rotation that we need to move to this direction, right? Now, what is this R interp to? So R interp is like rotation interpolation, so it's going to try to get a rotator from your current rotation to your target rotation. It needs to do that over time, so to do it smoothly. So you need to get the delta seconds. So like the time between each frame that's happened, it's going to interpolate taking that. You can do that in 2 ways. It's either turning this into a variable, the delta seconds on the event tick, but that's wasteful unless you need it in many, well actually it's just wasteful. because you can do the same by getting world delta seconds. Getting world delta. This is exactly the same thing. It gives the same result, so it's usually gonna be like 0.013 or whatever. Like, it's gonna depend on how many frames you're running at. And then the inter speed is so in this case 0.1 because I want it slow, but and then we set the actual rotation. So we get the current rotation, we get the direction we want to move to. Each frame we change the current rotation to most closely resemble the target, and then we set it in the controller. This is going to work already. There you go. So I'm looking away, nothing, but I'm kind of close. Oh, okay. Now I follow it and I move closer to it. Okay. So this works, but maybe you will notice something interesting. It's pointing at the 000 local vector in location of the enemy. But sometimes you want it to be like more like close to a headshot, or like you want it to be somewhere else. So that's where this offset comes in, right? So like basically the actor location, it's always going to be its center right here. But what if, let's say you want to shoot at its head? I mean, you're helping the player a little bit too much there, but whatever. I'm not going to judge you for that, that's your game. So let's say we get the actor location, but we add an offset of 50 vertical, and this is gonna more closely resemble a headshot because we're adding a little bit of up vector to the actor. Okay, let's say that you don't wanna help the player too much, so you want it to go to the feet, and there you go. So now you have an auto aim. This is working already, and this is probably enough for most people. But let's do a little bit something else. Here you cannot tell because you're not moving the mouse, but this is very magnetic. So like as soon as I'm close to it, even if I try to move my mouse away, it kind of wants to stay with it, right? And it feels a little bit forced. It's too magnetic in my opinion. But by the way, before I get into that, let's say that you want to make the interpolation, the auto aim, very aggressive. I mean, I wouldn't recommend making it like this, but you know, you can change the interpolation speed to make it faster or slower. Okay, but of course, the faster it is, the more jaggy it's going to become. Maybe 0.1, 0.2 in this example works pretty well. Alright, so how do you make it that it's not so magnetic? This is where this comes in. So let's say the problem with magnetism is not when I'm not moving my mouse, that's fine, that's, yeah, whatever. But when I'm moving my mouse away from it, it kind of wants to go back, which feels very weird. So what I'm gonna do is when I'm moving my mouse, I will not auto aim. Okay, and how do you do that? So you get your player controller, get input mouse delta. So basically, how much I'm moving? Did I move in the last frame, in the X and the Y? So if I moved more than 0, which means I wouldn't move my mouse. If I move more than 0, I don't want to auto aim. Okay, let's try it out. I think that's how it goes. Yeah, so I'm auto aiming because I'm not moving my mouse, but now I want to move away and the auto aiming stops, so I have no problem at all. Let's say that you want to whoops. Let's say that you want to do this a little bit sensitive, but as soon as I move the mouse a little bit strongly, then it doesn't work. This might not work, by the way, because it might depend on the direction. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this doesn't work, obviously. Yeah, let's not go into that now, because I just wanted to give you like a very simple auto aim system. Another thing that you could do would be come on. Another thing that you could do, by the way, the reason why this is an OR is because if you did an AND, so So if you did this, it will misbehave quite a bit. It seems logical to use an end, because it's like if I'm not moving if I'm not moving at all, right? But actually you might want to like run out of the auto aim like this or like this, so then it wouldn't be both happening, it would be an or, right? So yeah, that's something that I learned the hard way. You could do, and I've thought about it and I haven't done it yet, but you could do this. Let's say, so if the delta is within a range, then we do the same thing. This could work, I haven't tried it. Let's see. It doesn't work and I wonder why. Let me just get a printout of why this is happening. I mean, this is not the purpose of the tutorial anymore, but you know, this is something that I'm interested in. Let's see. So, okay, so it's 0. It's, oh, okay, the numbers are tiny. Yeah, they're tiny. Okay, so that's why it wasn't working. So I was trying a number that's like much too big for this. Yeah, so it's basically always gonna return true, and then we're not gonna go into the auto aim. So let's say minus 0.02 and 0.02. Even then it might not always pick it up, but... And just in case I wanna know what's happening here, so I'm gonna read this boolean. Okay, so I'm not moving at all, that's true. I'm moving very slowly, it's still kind of true. I'm moving faster and it's false. Okay, so we're still... Okay, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, so we're actually getting that it is within the range and it's returning true, because I'm making it so I'm not moving within this range, right? So like we need to negate that boolean, and then it's gonna work. Okay, there we go, it's working. But as soon as I move a little bit, it still happens. But if I move violently, then it doesn't happen. Okay, it's still the amounts are super tiny and it feels very magnetic. So at the moment, I would just recommend that you do this, or you know, investigate other ways. Like you could like try to get that system that we're looking at a little bit more fine-tuned. But this works quite fine. You know, you auto aim. You want to move away, you move away. You know, so like, but it helps you auto aim when you are here. So yeah, that's it for the tutorial. As you can see, it's a very simple method. Most of like half of the video has been me going on explanations instead of like the actual development of the thing. The development literally takes less than 10 minutes if you know what you're doing, and half an hour if you don't. So yeah, go ahead guys, let me know in the comments if you know of a better way of doing this. I would love to know about that. Yeah, hope that was useful. Take care.